Okay, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for your patience. We'll resume with public comment.
Good afternoon, board members. Something for the clerk. Good afternoon, board, staff, sheriff. My name is Jack Norton. I'm a registered cannabis cultivator in District 1. I moved to Calaveras from Alameda County, about 60 miles west of here. I came for the opportunity to participate in the newly regulated cannabis economy. To gain licensure basically is the culmination of a decade and a half of work in this field that is only now becoming normalized. In Alameda County, members of the Board of Supervisors, industry advocates, concerned citizens, and interested parties have been meeting regularly for 2 years to discuss and collaborate on the local ordinance counterpart to the state MCRSA. I've been an active member of this stakeholders group. And there are other participants in the Alameda County stakeholders active here in Calaveras. Sonoma County has a stakeholders group. Napa and Glenn counties are in the process of forming their own as well. This model has been shown to be an effective way to reconcile opposing views and move regulation forward. So we believe that the citizenry, industry, and government can collaborate, and that spirit is needed here in Calaveras. In Alameda County, we have a respectful relationship with our Board of Supervisors, and we desire to bring forth that cooperative relationship here in Calaveras. To that end, I've circulated a brief memorandum that I distributed to the clerk as a starting point for a discussion. Thank you, Board, for your time and for holding this study session.
Thank you, sir.
Crystal Kesey, District 1 voter. First, I'd like to extend my condolences to Supervisor Clapp for your loss. Please know we have empathy for your situation. I'm here today to speak for the registered farmers who have successfully navigated the urgency ordinance regulatory permitting process, and for those farms who are pending approval and will be approved. These are your county trailblazers, your first cannabis business taxpayers, your good neighbors who stand with the greater Calaveras community in the desire for prioritization of public safety and sensible regulation for this emerging industry. What these farmers represent is a window into the future of what sensible regulations would look like. Luckily for all of us stakeholders, community members, and decision makers, we have immediate access to information about these farms. We should study them for the ideas that work in our community. They have received approval already, so there is data to be mined from their existence. These farms, including my own, have been vetted by the sheriff, by planning, environmental health, and by code enforcement to ensure these business people are following local ordinances and following them completely. We are now paying taxes. Here's my paid 22,000 square foot tax bill. Navigating this regulatory process takes a tremendous effort on both sides of the planning desk. Congratulations to the county staff who have so diligently, under great pressure, vetted these farms to completion. Congratulations to the farmers who have obtained their business licenses. May your businesses prosper and continue as we're now less than 6 months away from the potential of a state license to complement our local business licenses. In any potential future regulations here in Calaveras, the issue of cannabis businesses in rural residential must be addressed. It is very clear that rural residential should not be considered in any manifestation of future regulations. We concur. But what about our registered farms who, under the UO, have been given business licenses and their farms are on RR? I'm here to tell you that I've spoken with a number of these business people, the registered people, who are concerned about the future of their businesses on the rural residential properties. Registered farmers on RR who have successfully obtained a business license should be allowed, somehow, some way, to be able to continue their livelihoods if regulations prevail in Calaveras County. These are the Calaveras farmers who bravely came forward to work in partnership with both the county and the community. Let's not take away their hard-earned rights. If they aren't a nuisance, then there are effective land use planning solutions, based on precedents in other local California jurisdictions like Humboldt, Trinity, or Sonoma counties to offer these affected businesses. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Good afternoon, Board, Sheriff, staff. My name is Chris Metz, resident and business owner of District 2. In the past 2 years, we've heard a lot of impassioned arguments on both sides of the fence. Today, I will address only facts and compromise. Mr. Tofinelli and any board members who are willing to find a middle ground, I thank you for hearing our suggestions. As a member of the Calaveras Cannabis Alliance, I will continue where our director, Trevor, left off and give our recommendations for a permanent ordinance. We support the road impact mitigation fees. The county should consider allowing local private associations impacted by farms to access some of these funds or levy similar fees for the maintenance of their roadways. This could be assessed and administered through the fee structure and nexus study, which would objectively analyze these costs. We believe every farm should maintain strict compliance with labor laws and worker safety regulations established by the state of California and Calaveras County. This includes on-site documentation, adequate housing for workers, adequate sanitation, personal protective equipment, safety and handbooks, guidebooks, and appropriate tools and supervision to use these equipment. These are some of the regulatory provisions that could help us to assure worker safety on compliant farms. We support the use of application fees to pay for a county staff position overseeing and enforcing worker safety and compliance in the cannabis industry. We also believe that a permanent ordinance should include provisions requiring every local licensee to participate in a verifiable track and trace program. Strict regulation and taxation is the key to a successful and prosperous Calaveras County. Thank you for the time, and we look forward to continuing this discussion at a later time. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Good afternoon, Board. My name is Ann Hill, and I feel that I have been ignored and unrepresented. I am one of the majority in this county that, not on just one occasion, but more than one, that we have decided we do not want commercial pot growing, and we don't want the dispensaries. We now have innumerable youngish type people ramming the roads with no regard for road curves, oncoming cars, speed. Our fence was run into and damaged 6 poles, all the wire ripped off, and one of the poles was an 8-inch post in cement, and they managed to break it completely in half. And of course, not even a buy your leave, but they did leave all their broken car parts there for us to clean up and to fix our own fence. Last week, a blonde woman in a dark green Saturn type car with gold pinstripe was going so fast she missed the curve. This is going past our house. She drove up the bank on the left side, then she came back to the right and made sure she took out the fence of our next door neighbor. So Bob and another neighbor went over and they repaired it so the goats wouldn't get out. But you know, these people want to be good neighbors. They want to be real good neighbors. But when they do damage, they're not around to be seen or heard. Let's see. We've repaired the fence, and let's see. And let's remember the 2 dump sites at the high school. It was hazmat. They had to clean it up at taxpayers' expense. But they want to be good neighbors. Yep, they do. And how about the Barrett case? If the brothers were growing tomatoes or anything else, the thieves wouldn't have come, and Barrett would be living his life and not in jail. The water situation, I know the fire department's trying to figure out, or maybe they have, how to put something on the hydrants so there can't be theft to water the grows, because there is water theft. 30 seconds. Okay, so to sum this up, I am ignored and I am unrepresented, and I hope the Board of Supervisors will do their best and make the right decision and ban all pot. Thank you.
Thank you.
Kaz Tomaszewski, Oak Hill. There seems to be an idea that the county's farmers have been rigid or unwilling to compromise with their neighbors in the crafting of regulations. I believe this harkens back to the rigid lines CCA held over the urgency ordinance. At the time, we vigorously defended growing in residential areas, low parcel minimums, et cetera, as you have heard today. We are now stating that we are willing to accept additional rules in regards to parcel sizes, zoning, and others in order to negotiate a sustainable future with our neighbors. Many probably believe that this represents a shift, a strong change in CCA's policies or those of the county's farmers. The truth is, absolutely it does not. Allow me to explain. Under the urgency ordinance, all regulations had to be designed to address an imminent threat to public health and safety. While this holds some obvious meaning for all of us, there are some less obvious repercussions of this format on the functionality of any regulations an urgency ordinance contains. First and foremost, it is almost impossible to build exceptions into any rules outlined in an urgency ordinance, as any exceptions represent potential vulnerabilities in the argument that the UO addresses an imminent threat. For this reason, any farmer that was found to be irreparably out of compliance of our UO based on their zone, size, location, or otherwise would have only one option: shut down. The UO rendered it completely impossible to survive the implementation of many different types of regulations, and so we advocated against them. However, under a permanent ordinance, elegant compromises are possible. If the county decides it wanted to implement rules that made it impossible for people to operate where they are currently located, it could allow them to relocate, thus giving us a path to survival. This is the difference between the UO and the permanent ordinance. We had to hold a hard line with the UO, and because it was the only way to survive, because intelligent solutions were not legally possible under the auspices of urgency. But with the permanent ordinance, a middle way is possible. Compromise is possible. Under a permanent ordinance, I believe you will find us to be flexible and supportive of the efforts of this board to find a workable compromise, so long as some small path to survival for good, compliant people is secured. We have long since given up being comfortable. We'll settle for viable. The only rules we oppose are those that a significant portion of us could not survive, period. Most of what the public wants, most of the problems outlined with the status quo are not insurmountable, and in fact are quite solvable, and we're ready to do our part. So now today, when a local leader of cultivators got up and stated that we would be willing to accept removing our industry from residential neighborhoods, out in the foyer, about 40 cultivators cheered. Believe it or not, we get it. Not all of us, but enough of us. We get it. And to make this point, I'm putting myself on the altar. My farm is 5 acres of unclassified. If I have to move, if I have to relocate, if I have to build a 2-story statue of a jumping frog, if you'll give me a permit, I'll do it, so that this works for everyone. You just need to give me a path. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ben Stopper, District 5. Today you've heard multiple compromises that could mitigate many of the problems. One of the main problems going forward ever since last year, one of the things I also agree with, was that it should not be in our communities. I have before me a proposed land use map for the new general plan, and if you look at the map, I'm going to say 60% of the county is under rural residential. Now, if you look at it further, you go into each individual community. And in each individual community, they aren't just strictly rural residential. There is some industrial in some of those communities. There is some working land, rural agricultural. Some of these parcels are large. So I believe that there is a contingency of things that would need to be done to mitigate this issue. Not just rural residential per se, for zoning, taking that out, but also proposing in the community plans something to the effect that they do not want it within their communities for areas such as rural agricultural, industrial, or anything else that could be a zone that would be applied. Moving on further, I have brought up before the board in the past that I believe the EO conflicts with the community plan with Rancho Calaveras in the sense that they don't want any commercial uses or activities within their area that's not in-home business, which in my opinion, as soon as they categorized the grows as a commercial use, that conflicts with the Rancho Calaveras Community Plan. So I believe that that's one way to go about doing it. They have made many suggestions for mitigating these issues. I definitely would like you to consider them. Something else that has come up before the board today is track and trace. We have a valuable asset within this county that has been to the state level talking about track and trace, and it actually is in the bid for proposing it to the state as the track and trace the state may use. And I would like you to consider this person as a valuable resource that the county can ask certain questions as they move forward, as they know all about it. And this person's going to speak after me, Vivian. I would like her to speak on track and trace because it's the glue that would hold regulation together. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Board. Vivian Sage, District 1. Regulation can represent a substantial value creation opportunity for Calaveras. With this in mind, we believe a permanent ordinance must include provision requiring every local licensee to participate in track and trace. As it will take more than 3 minutes to share the technical details and schematics, we would like to share the basics of McCurse's distribution compliance and track and trace key features and benefits. First and foremost, it has to be noted that track and trace represents a very strict compliance model and is the glue that will hold the entire industry together, where only the best will survive it. As an integrated system across the functional applications of farmers, manufacturers, and retailers, data will be collected, monitored, controlled, and transferred into a seed-to-sale track and trace portal, which will enable the following achievements: eliminate product diversion risk and control tax evasion. For example, when taxation moves away from canopy to weighted tax. Position law enforcement as stakeholder number one in the county, providing a fundamental tool to combat illegal grows, manufacturing, and sales operations. Protect the consumer via quality assurance and health and safety. Ensure environmental protection. Put the county in full control of the compliant industry players and as a reflection of the non-compliant ones. Deliver a complete set of tools to provide the county with end-to-end supply chain management capabilities. Understand the industry end-to-end economics and deploy the appropriate taxation instruments to ensure the related timely, complete, and accurate collection of tax revenues. Create employment opportunities and foster business innovation. Protect and strengthen the fabric of small to medium enterprises, which constitutes the backbone of our county, and as a matter of fact, of the entire Northern California economy. And lastly, implement an appellation system. We already know that we grow some of the best medicine in the state here in Calaveras, and therefore the nation. Now we can certify it from seed to sale and transform it into a competitive advantage for our entire county economy. With specific regards to employment opportunities, jobs will be created not only in logistics, transportation, and warehouse management, but most importantly, white-collar jobs in the field of information technology and data management. A business case for change, as we know, gentlemen, is made of costs and benefits. With regards to track and trace, the benefits are plentiful and the costs of the county are fairly limited. In summary, track and trace will require 110% full transparency from all industry players across the end-to-end supply chain. We believe that with regulations, a mandatory track and trace requirement must be included in a permanent ordinance. As it will take more than 3 minutes to present the technical details and schematics of the system, we would be more than happy to come back at a later date to show you the system and answer any questions you may have. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you.
Let's see, good afternoon. I live in RR where there are an estimated 9 registered growers and 3 illegal grow sites. In approximately February of 2017, I sent an email to the county clerk to be shared with the Board of Supervisors, providing suggestions for revised regulations. On April 10th of this year, I and a neighbor met with Supervisor Tofinelli to share our position on cannabis cultivation, since we are both directly impacted by neighbor growers. On April 11th, I sent Supervisor Tofinelli an updated list of ideas for revised regulations. What is below, which I've given to all of you, is a list of our suggested upgrades. We are hoping for, on all sides, a compromise. I assume most of us prefer no growers in residential zoning of any type. We appreciate the CCA recommendations and suggestions that have been made at this meeting today. The majority of the large grow sites are in RR. This is a negative gift from the prior Board of Supervisors, but we have to deal with it. The list of ideas related to growers does not allow me time to present the entire list. So in general, it covers reduced grow site square footage, it adds a maximum number of plants per year. It more specifically defines enclosure requirements, allows for adjacent neighbor feedback, and ensures impact assessment related to water, which aligns with the EIR. Sets an annual limit on the number of county-approved large grow sites, revises the fee structure for large growers, sets residency requirements, expands background checking and firearm licensing requirements. The assumption is that these grow sites will remain in the residential zoning for at least some period of time. Maybe our list can be used as an interim solution until the growers can be relocated to commercial zoning. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mark Bolger, Mountain Ranch, Rimrock Farms. First off, I'd like to thank the board for giving us the opportunity to be here to discuss these issues. I'm glad you didn't make us do it at midnight last week. Thank you, Chair. We've had a plethora of business owners come up here and say they're willing to compromise, sometimes heavily affecting their bottom line. Brass tacks is, this industry cannot and should not continue to operate in this county if we can't mitigate quality of life issues that are brought along with it. We've got to solve that. Supervisor Tofinelli, last week we heard you loud and clear. We've got to get this out of the neighborhoods. We're with you 100% on that. Sheriff DeBasilio, I've had the pleasure of hearing you speak at several town hall meetings here in front of the board. Background checks for all employees, national, international, we're behind you. If that's an extra fee that my business has to pay to ensure that, both Sheriff's Department staff, county staff, and neighboring parcel owners have the peace of mind of knowing who's there operating, we need to bear that cost. I voluntarily offered all my employees up. I think that you'd find that many farms here have no problem disclosing. The idea has been kicked around about an identification badge or lanyard for all employees. We're 100% behind that. The bottom line is here, we're willing to compromise. A total ban doesn't allow for compromise. At the end of the day, this industry, it's going to survive here. We want it to be in the hands of legal registered farmers that are businessmen that are willing to take this to the next level. Businessmen and women, I should clarify that. I think that, Calaveras County needs to reach out to the state on this. I know that we're all, or many of us are rugged individualists here and don't often think the state of California is going to swoop in and save us. I don't think we need to go it alone. I really think we need to reach out to them and see how they can, hey, if I'm operating here in 2018, I'm going to be paying them taxes, I'm going to be paying them licensure fees. That money shouldn't just stop at the state. It should come back to Calaveras County. I think we also need to consider our new proposed general plan going forward. There's some major changes there. I think that, Calaveras County's current zoning, no fault to any current planning officials, it's a little wacky. District 2 especially, there's some really large parcels zoned rural residential that, I don't know, maybe they should be, maybe they shouldn't. I think going forward, we really need to look at that general plan as we're making decisions. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, board, staff. My name is Brett Gonsalves. My wife and I own Rolling Hills Bookkeeping. We're a newly established business in this county, brought here solely by the cannabis industry. We recognize the great need for the accounting bookkeeping services within this industry and have chosen that as our vertical. We took calculated but great risks to make the move to this county without any permanent regulations being in place, and thus far, it does look to be a good business decision. However, I am concerned about our future and the future of many other ancillary businesses here if this industry is not appropriately regulated. From my standpoint, I can see valid concerns from both the pro-cannabis side and the ban proponent side. I take the standpoint that a well-balanced, sustainable future needs to be realized within this county. This can be accomplished with proper, well-thought-out regulation that would allow for an ample number of approved farms to continue to operate while also granting all other residents the ability to feel comfortable within their neighborhoods. When I state an ample number of farms to operate, I'm not only referring to enough farms to realize a healthy tax stream that the county desperately needs to fill the underfunded areas of the budget, but also maintaining a healthy pool of farms to allow many businesses like my own to amass enough clients to maintain a healthy and fruitful future. I ask you to please consider all areas that potential regulation will affect as you will move forward with your policy and regulation decisions. Given the current pass the denial rates we are seeing with the UO, I'm hopeful about the final number of farm counts we could be seeing if the industry is allowed to continue. According to the reports from the planning department as of this morning, the pass rate of the commercial farms is at 38%. Should the county continue at this rate, we would be left with anywhere from 250 to 300 active registered farms. I do agree with Supervisor Tofinelli. I do think commercial agriculture of any kind does not belong in heavily populated residential neighborhoods. Within that statement, I do also believe that any compliant registered grow that finds themselves in such a location should be granted the ability to move their operation within 2 to 3 year window. It is my belief that a well-regulated cannabis industry operating under a permanent ordinance will keep $1 million industry and the economic activity that goes along with such a large industry in this community. The lion's share of this money will remain local within the ancillary businesses that provide goods, services, and employment for local residents. Thank you for your time, and I look forward to hopefully working together with you guys as a community going forward to help everybody involved. Thank you.
Thank you.
William Hand, registered grower, District 2. Having a little sciatic problem today, so that's the reason why the cane. Sorry for your loss, Supervisor Clapp. I'm glad that we're talking about a compromise. I was the 4th speaker the other night talking, why don't we compromise? Put acreage restrictions on rural residential, okay? 2 acres is too small, okay? For the people who want to save their communities, if you're in a homeowners association, I was a realtor, and I know that you can put in a new classification in your homeowners association to save your homeowners association. And if they don't abide by the homeowners association's CC&Rs, then you can affect their property, okay? So there are ways that people can protect their community and their children. The registered growers, we want to work with you guys. You know, when I said, and the gentleman before me said there's possibly 200 to 300 registered grows potentially, that's where I came up with if everybody paid the amount of money that I told you, $40,500, if I hit my goal, that could come up between 11 to $14 million to go towards schools, to go towards libraries, to go towards keeping sheriffs here, paying them a decent salary so they don't go off to San Joaquin or somewhere else where it's paying more money. You don't want to go through a bankruptcy because I was in Vallejo when they did. Fire department was cut drastically. Sheriff's department, we had 3 squad cars for the whole city of Vallejo, okay? It was like the Wild West. We don't want that in our communities. We are willing to work with you guys, okay? So I'm really happy to see that we are talking about a potential compromise. Get together with the people that are registered if you want more ideas, okay? We don't want to see the sheriff's staff cut by 10 people, the county staff cut by 20 people. That adds to an unemployment rate. We don't want that or need that in our county, okay? Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, please keep in mind that you're only allowed 1 time at the microphone for each public speaking segment.
Calaveras County is a very scenic county, and a lot of the revenue that comes into the county comes from tourist trade. I believe that the marijuana growing and tourist trade are incompatible. It's an incompatible marriage, and that's how I feel. I believe that I'm a world citizen first, a U.S. citizen second, a California citizen third, Calaveras citizen fourth, and I believe that we should be bigger than the sum of our parts. We should have complementary aspects to our responsibilities to each of our citizenships. And it saddens me that the medical insurance premiums have skyrocketed. More and more people who need health care are denied it. Doctors are quitting. Lines are waiting and growing. There would be plenty of health care to go around if people did not abuse their own bodies. Marijuana is just one of those abuses. It happens to be in the spotlight now. The PERS retirement plans for teachers and other government workers are dumping cigarette stocks and investments because of the stigma of the harm it does to the body. We're talking cigarettes. It doesn't take a genius to know pot is a much worse pariah. The message that it is sending to kids and young people is that cigarettes are bad for you, but pot is okay. A ludicrous conclusion. This is turning our county and our state into a drug pusher. 30 seconds. The internet is full of Californians and even Calaveras residents caught and prosecuted for pot-related events in other states. We are losing credibility with our fellow states and their agencies. I hope that we ban pot completely. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Board. Megan Salvis, Rolling Hills Bookkeeping, San Andres. As many of you may remember, I spoke to this board February 14th of this year regarding the local expenditures of 30 Calaveras County farms since the urgency ordinance was enacted on May 10th, 2016. To better inform this board and county staff, my firm has compiled a similar but more in-depth data report calculating the in-county expenditures of every Calaveras client of my firm, Rolling Hills. There are 88 in total. In the interest of not handing the board a 36-page report, I distributed a single spreadsheet with the grand totals. Board and staff, should any of you like a copy of the full report in its entirety, my contact information is at the top of the page and I would be happy to supply it. As you can see from the total at the bottom of the second page, these 87 farms and one dispensary spent $5.7 million at 72 local businesses in Calaveras County in 2016. They provided over 500 jobs and will pay an estimated $2.5 million in canopy and use taxes into the general fund this year. Now, these are just my clients. Triple this number and you will come to about 260 farms. The magic number we all seem to be looking at should denial rates continue at their current averages. The point I'm trying to make here is permanent regulation based on the present status quo would equate to a smaller pool to work with, remove farms from heavily dense populated areas, keeping the local economy thriving while providing ample tax funds to remove the illegal operations that are endangering the safety of your constituents and, as the sheriff shared with us last week, are potentially damaging our environment. Now, I'm no fool. Reducing the number of registered farms is not going to make everyone happy. My company will most certainly take a drastic cut to its bottom line with any potential loss in farms. However, that's what compromise is. Not everyone ends up peachy king on the opposite side of it. The decision that we all need to work together to make will require us to put some of our personal feelings aside and make a decision based on what is best for not one person or business, but what is best for the community as a whole. I do have a request specifically for the chair. If you shall allow, the CCA formally requests that our proposals be submitted for the record at next week's meeting, if chair will allow. And in closing, I sincerely hope that this meeting opens a door to facilitate further conversations and discussions between our cannabis farmers, the auxiliary companies affected by their abilities to do business here in Calaveras, and the board. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair Oliveira, other supervisors, and staff. My name is Jackie McGowan, and I'm a consultant in the cannabis industry. However, I'm not here representing any clients today. I'm here to offer my insight on regulations by giving you a snapshot of what I see happening across the rest of the state. I'm probably one of the only people, and possibly the only person, that has read every single article regarding cannabis regulations in every one of the state's 539 municipalities in the last year and a half. At this time last year, only 10% of the state's counties had regulations in place, which meant 5 counties had ordinances, and Calaveras was one of those. We now have commercial ordinances in place in Calaveras, Humboldt, Marin, Mendocino, Monterey, San Francisco, Santa Cruz, Sonoma, Trinity, Yolo, raising that number to 17% with regulations in place. We have pending or draft ordinances out in Alameda, Inyo, Lake, Los Angeles, Nevada, Merced, San Benito, San Luis Obispo, and Santa Barbara counties, meaning another 15% of the state's counties have commercial regulatory ordinances that are imminent. We also have ad hoc committees or town hall discussions occurring in Glenn, Napa, Plumas, San Joaquin, Stanislaus, and Tuolumne counties. If all of these counties continue to move with this momentum as planned, we will see 42% of the state with commercial cannabis regulations in place in counties at the end of this year. That's a big uptick. Today alone, today, we have 26 municipalities with cannabis-specific agenda items being discussed. We also have 5 special election ballot measures being voted on in the cities of California City, Santa Rosa, Seaside, and Upland. And we do have 2 counties that are moving backwards, or talking about moving backwards, by banning something that they had once regulated. Those are San Diego and Kern County. Both of those counties are offering a period of time for those businesses to amortize their losses. San Diego County specifically is allowing these businesses 5 years to shut down. It kills me to sit through meeting after meeting hearing how awful the urgency ordinance is and how it is an abysmal failure. Ms. Stedfield's urgency ordinance was a work of art at that time. She was flying blind and did not have many other ordinances to use as a guide. Your staff did the absolute best that they could with very minimal resources to rely upon, and I applaud your effort back then and even more so now. I'm going to end with a quote from a previous speaker that said, "Regulation without enforcement is chaos." If that is true, then how could a ban without enforcement be anything less?
Thank you.
Susan Morse, District 4. I just have a clarification. Since a year ago, we've been hearing, or I'll say I've been hearing, growers called the good growers and the bad growers. Now, as time has gone by, we call them the legal growers and the illegal growers, or the compliant growers or the non-compliant growers. This morning, the auditor said there was 108 approved registrants. So could the board or Mr. Mauer or somebody here clarify to us, to me, what actually is a registrant right now, who's compliant, who we're talking about? Are we talking about 108 people? That's my question. I need clarification. So if you could speak to that sometime today, I would appreciate it. Thank you.
Next speaker. I'd like to commend you on your understanding. Thank you.
Shelley, okay. I'm Elaine St. John. I'm with the Calaveras Republican Party. I'm the fourth vice chair of politics, and I'm here to, as the chair said, present an alternative, which would be federal help with Jeff Sessions. This is Resolution 17-3, whereas the Federal Controlled Substance Act requires classification of marijuana to be a Schedule I drug, and it has no currently accepted medical use and treatment. And that has been accepted, it has not been accepted, excuse me, for a safe use under medical supervision. Whereas the Federal Controlled Substance Act makes it unlawful under federal law to manufacture, distribute, dispense marijuana, and it contains no exemption for medical purposes. Whereas, as stated by the FDA, who you all know who that is, it also states per the Controlled Substance Act of 1970 that high potential for abuse is marijuana, no currently accepted medical use, and lack of accepted safety for those under medical supervision. Medical marijuana can exist in the United States only if marijuana is reclassified to a Schedule II. Until that changes, it remains illegal for anyone to grow, prescribed, doctor's prescription, dispense, or distribute marijuana. Whereas stated by the FDA, also, a special registration is required for clinical trials. Just think about that. The DEA requires special registration for the investigator and the site where the study will be occurring. A scientific and medical evaluation available in the information scheduling a recommendation for marijuana was denied by the FDA and the DEA on August 12th of just last year. They looked at it last year. So whereas marijuana business operators can be prosecuted under federal drug and money laundering. Money laundering is a big thing with me, I gotta tell you. Whereas federal money laundering laws also apply to financial transactions by alleged legal marijuana businesses. They may be a federal crime up to 10 years. So be it further resolved that the Calaveras Republican Party send a copy of this adopted resolution to the President of the United States, Attorney General Jeff Sessions, Congressman Tom McClintock, and the Calaveras Board of Supervisors. I thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Vicki Reinke, and I am speaking on behalf of Calaveras County Republican Central Committee. And I'm going to read the letter that we sent to Attorney General Jeff Sessions. The same letter went to the President. Dear Attorney General Sessions, Calaveras County Republican Central Committee is opposed to the commercial marijuana industry that is being allowed in the state of California and our local cities and counties. Legislation passed by our state legislators in September of 2015 allowed for commercial marijuana activities for medical marijuana. This was done without a vote of the people. Then in November of 2016, Proposition 64, the Adult Marijuana Use Act, was passed by voters, making recreational marijuana legal. Calaveras County has been invaded by marijuana grows with more than 2,000 grows in 2016. The citizens do not feel safe, and there is great concern for our youth. Calaveras County is a small rural county in the northeastern part of California with a population of about 45,000, covering 1,037 square miles. A quiet community located in the Motherlode Gold Country made up of small towns, ranches, and wineries. The citizens want to protect their way of life. The Calaveras County Republican Central Committee is in support of upholding federal laws on marijuana. We have attached our resolution in support. Thank you for your time and consideration on this very important issue facing our county. We hope that we can count on you to enforce federal law and prosecute those that choose to violate federal marijuana laws. And I'm going to give you each a copy, and then I have So you also have a copy of the note. We actually got a response back from Jeff Sessions, which was very impressive. He's quite an unusual person. It says, Thank you for speaking out on the marijuana issue and for your support. We will not be a better society with more marijuana. Thanks for your resolution. Sincerely, Jeff. And so, you know, this is an important issue to us as citizens. And I did, because this wasn't supposed to be part of this, I really thought it belonged in the first part. So I now don't have my 3 minutes. So I want to say one thing, that a ban is a defensible thing to do. If you regulate it, as we've seen in the past, as we've seen every step of the way, we are being sued and sued and sued by the big marijuana money. And so I want you to keep that in mind. That is the only defensible thing you can do in a county, and that is to ban, because it's a constitutional right. So I hope that you really think about that, and I don't know how you think you can tweak the regulations to make it work. I don't think so. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Board. Before, I just have 4 comments to make. Before lunch break, Dr. Smith and a young lady named Holly stood up here and they spoke with excellent and thoughtful recommendations. I'd like you guys to review that again. It went pretty quick, and I thought there were some great ideas in there, and they should be considered. A little background on me. I'm a resident in District 4, business owner and resident. About 12 years ago, I went through something very similar to this process with my attempt to open up a winery in rural residential neighborhoods. We went through a very long process. It took like 3 years. They rewrote the ordinances at that time to adopt a classification called small wineries on rural residential properties. I would encourage you all to revisit that ordinance and see if there's some ideas inside there that you might be able to use to accommodate commercial grows of cannabis. Brings me to point 3. Inside of that ordinance, there is a provision for CSDs, which I'm a small winery owner on a CSD. In that provision, we pay an extra road fee for our services to accommodate the usage of damages to the road because of our business. I would encourage you to institute something like that as a provision for CSDs for commercial grows. I know it would add, I think there's 8 or 9 growers in our CSD, so that would add a little bit of money to our budget to maintain our roads. And then my final point, last week you guys talked about priority budgeting, and I would like to encourage you to priority budget for roads, infrastructures, services, PR, and marketing before you budget for funds needed to enforce a ban, and before you budget to curtail any additional new revenues coming into the county. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, supervisors. I'm Al Segala, and speaking for myself. First, I'd like to say our planning director has done a wonderful job this last year. You wouldn't believe the amount of things that went on he's handled. He wrote a report that concisely described everything that was going on, and I couldn't understand it until I read his report. Then I understand what was going on. And I think the solution is going to lie within the planning department. We do have a land use problem here. We have emergency ordinance, which I thought was too restrictive, and I thought it was had a lot of problems, and I understand the sheriff didn't like it. But in spite of the obstacles, the darn thing did pretty good. I understand there's been no crime since the emergency ordinance has gone into effect. And so it seems like we have a good start. We need to improve that ordinance. There's some area for improvement. Identify that in a factual way, and ask the planning director and the planning commission to designate the different uses that involve with cannabis, so that you can have harmony between all the different uses in our county. And you won't be destroying an industry, but you will be bringing about peace and prosperity. Doesn't that make sense? Thank you.
Thank you.
Could I have a warning at 2 minutes, 1 minute, 30 seconds?
That'll cost you, sir.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Robert Macias. I'm from District 5. One thing that I have noticed from around here is that I am not a grower, but everybody thinks I am because of how I look. And because of that, I think I was able to talk to a lot of people about a lot of things. And what I have come to find is that there definitely should be regulation. I agree with the gentleman who spoke earlier that said that prohibition was a terrible time for alcohol, and I've always felt the same way about cannabis currently going on in not just our county, but the entire nation. I was informed by somebody that I was supposed to come here and try to present some ideas. I myself have been trying to look into these things myself. My education is a master's in computer science, and I spent a lot of time trying to create equations to govern how games will be balanced out. I felt that some of this information should be passed on to even the cannabis system. For instance, I do not agree that we should be measuring by canopy or square footage size, but we should be measuring by volume. Something around, thank you, around 100 cubic feet should be about a standard plant. Now, some people are confused about what 100 cubic feet might represent. 100 cubic feet is about a 16 square foot area canopy, but a 6 foot tall plant. Furthermore, if we could start categorizing our plants by volume, it makes it easier to start trying to set other types of limits and rules about how they follow. For instance, we should be able to create a system by which how far away farms should be placed away from schools or parks. And if we have a standard plant size, we could say something as a relational equation that if we have 100 standard plants, they have to be at least 1 mile away. So if somebody has a 1,000 plant farm, they need to be at least 10 miles away. This would help push some of the larger farms away from our neighborhoods and our communities. But at the same time, we need to have more tiers. We need more tiers than the simple 4 that has been given to us by the state and the 1 that is written in the emergency ordinance. Thank you. That if we had somewhere around 16 tiers, we could govern more appropriately somebody who's growing between 50 plants and 1,000 plants, and we could charge them an appropriate fee table. Some of the fees of $5,000 for 22,000 acres is just not right. The conversion of which, if you were to use the standard plant theory, you have people at the small end can grow about 200 plants, and people at the large end can grow about 1,000 plants. That's what fits inside the acreage. Other things that come up is going to be penalizing people. We don't seem to have anything in place in terms of understanding what it takes to penalize, and the state offers a simple solution of having 2 times as a rate. I believe it should be more higher than that in terms of exponential assignment. If you violate 3 tiers, you should be paying 8 times the penalty, not twice.
Thank you very much, sir.
Good afternoon, Board. My name is John Ertl, and I'm a registered grower in District 1 and a member of the Board of Calaveras Normal. These are just my personal recommendations and not any position of Calaveras Normal. Some of these have been touched on earlier already. Some people stole my thunder. We should ban outdoor grows on small and neighborhood residential lots unless it's done, and this is something I haven't heard, in a greenhouse with odor control. Using any enclosed structure with odor control, it's possible to eliminate odors as an noxious issue. If it's out of sight and out of mind, what's the issue we're dealing with then in terms of neighborhoods? I think we can issue reasonable regulations. Another one would be if there's an HOA in place when a person applies for their commercial grow, they should have to submit a copy of HOA rules validating that there's no rule against them growing in the HOA, and we shouldn't issue a permit in that case. We should charge tiered rates for permits depending on the size of the grow instead of a one-size-fits-all fee. The largest growers should definitely be paying a larger fee, and the smallest growers should be paying a smaller fee. On top of that, I think personal growers who are growing for medical and personal use should not pay any fee. Those costs can be borne by the industry itself. Any new licenses should be posted publicly with a public comment period, such as they do with new doing business as in the paper, with the comment period and a board that can take potential complaints and neighbor issues before the permits is issued and afterwards. Anybody who's a constant issue can always have their permit revoked or suspended. I do agree farm employees should be licensed or have some kind of card and a background check, whatever the sheriff needs to make sure that things are safe and above board. Non-compliances with labor laws should be something that can get your permit suspended or revoked, and that will mostly self-police itself because no one will want their permit revoked. If there is a ban on commercial grows, I'd like to know what the justification is for banning personal outdoors in the country on large acreage lots. Why can't someone on 20 acres grow 6 plants outside? That seems like a blanket ban, makes no real sense in that case if it's not affecting anybody else. I'd also like to see, there's been some issue of the ban being presented by this time and why it hasn't been. I would like to know why there hasn't been a plan to pay for it presented as well. And I would like to say if it's going to be presented, we should have a specific plan on how it's going to be paid for presented at this time as well, so that people are informed before a vote is taken. 45 seconds. I'd like to add that as a member of Calaveras Republicans Against Marijuana position, that the information presented just now by the Republican Party leadership was not voted on by the general voting membership and probably wouldn't have had the same result. Tom Clintock and Donald Trump have both expressed public support for medical marijuana. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Jesse Johnston. I run the Murphy's Pines Medical Collective in District 3. This conversation is dismaying. I keep hearing the word compromise being used from the cannabis community as we attempt to contribute to our society and appease people who disagree with our industry. However, as we seek a logical conclusion to the problems we face, I don't see our desired compromise being taken seriously by the other side of the aisle. The idealism behind the ban is pushing aside logic and is attempting to force the hand of the people, even while we are sitting here on the edge of giving you massive amounts of money by paying taxes that we all voted on last year. I wish we could be talking about how we plan on using that money to make our county better, as opposed to forcing us out and shutting us down. Please, please, please don't let the fervent push for prohibition control the discussion, and let us reach a logical conclusion. We've been bending over backwards to compromise and show that we want to play this game legally. So it would be nice if you gave us some carrots, encouraging us to work by the rules, as opposed to just threatening us with a stick, which will just push more people away. Thank you very much. I hope you don't ban it.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Beth Whitkey, District 2. I think the previous gentleman said a lot of what I'd like to say. We need to compromise on all sides. We all need to live together. Most of us do not intend to go anywhere. Many of us will be forced to shut our businesses down, switch over to conventional crops, do something that many of us don't know how to do. We've paid our dues. We are jumping through every hoop we possibly can jump through. We are willing to compromise. No matter what happens, I would like to see this county come together with some truth and reconciliation. I'm hearing from both sides that everybody's lying. It doesn't feel good to be called a liar. It doesn't feel good to feel lied to. There is a lot of information that's come out in the last 80 years, 40 years, to revert back to Schedule 1, saying there's no medical benefit, when clearly we see people experiencing medical benefit. Doesn't make sense to me. We know better. We've had plenty of time to study. We know that when you look at the CDC data, many normal, everyday substances cause death, destruction, disease, family discord. I lost my father to emphysema last summer. For years, he would have been on the ban aisle. He would have rather suffered than use cannabis to help him feel better, to help him eat. The one day he did use a little cannabis, he ate, he felt better. For years, he thought that his cannabis-using family members were not smart because somebody told them that we're all brain damaged. Turns out it's a neuroprotectant that helps people with brain injuries and brain problems. When you compare it to tobacco, there are 400 to 500,000 people die annually to tobacco. The CDC continues to list 0 deaths to cannabis. I want to encourage this community to come together, compromise, and try to heal from all of this division. The point of medical marijuana is for healing. Please, consider a compromise. Do not do a total ban, and I thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Hi, Jim Trammell, District 2. I thought this was about banning commercial marijuana, nothing about medical marijuana. I don't think we're trying to ban medical marijuana. I don't quite understand where it's going with. By the way, my own little community in Mountain Ranch, I have a grow that last year was maybe 80, 90 plants. Now, between here and the wall there's about 450 plants, and they're still moving in plants about this tall. Is there anything that goes on about the quantity of plants and how many plants a person can have? I've lost sight of it. There was 100 plant maximum at one time, but is that not what's going on nowadays? So anyhow, that's what's going on in my life. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
I'd like to make a couple of comments. I hope they won't be repetitive of what's already been said. I had some notes, and I'll try to leave the things off that have already been stated. I came to a meeting that was held by the Planning Department, I think it was on April 22nd. It was in this room, and it was a presentation by the people who did the draft EIR about the draft EIR and requesting comments on that document. And most of us who came were a bit confused about the contents of the EIR and were seeking information. And we were told, no, just give us your comments and we'll note them down. So I asked Peter Maurer a simple question that is, okay, if we institute a ban in the next few months, and then in a year we turn over 2 or 3 people on the Board of Supervisors, could then the next group come back and say, well, we don't want to ban anymore. We really want to have a regulated cannabis cultivation situation in Calaveras? He said, sure. Any group, any time a new board is elected, and I suppose even among the board members that are here right now, they could change their minds and they could change the direction that they're going, which I find really troubling, having been very, very involved in the whole general plan process, which began in 2006, and now we're in 2017, and we're still without a new revised general plan. So I guess the point that I'm trying to make is, I think it's been well expressed by many people here, and we have great stakeholders, and we have people with a lot of experience in things like regulation and consultation on this very topic. So I would certainly support some kind of stakeholders group that would involve members of the board and members of the community with lots of experience in these areas to kind of come together and sift through many of these suggestions that have been made to try to see if there isn't some kind of middle ground. I fully agree with everybody who said today that having a complete ban or having very poorly regulated cultivation permission will not work. And so I urge you to deliberate very carefully. I hope when we listen to the discussion that you have after we end this public hearing, that we will not hear the same comments that were made last week and the week before, that you will actually be able to
cite comments that were made by people in this public hearing and so many other ones that we've had before, and express your support of them or your opposition to them, or make suggestions that would improve. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Any other speakers? Sir?
Afternoon, Cliff Edson, business owner in San Andreas. So here we are again for the third year on this same subject. And we seem to be wasting a whole bunch of taxpayer money. I was born in 1956, and cannabis or marijuana was banned. And I went to school in the 60s and 70s. 1974, when I graduated from high school, it was illegal. It was banned. It's bigger now than it was then. Billions and billions and billions of dollars wasted of our taxpayer money that we could be building programs we could take and find good uses for things that we're wasting this money on. So, somebody says that there's no medical use for it. Okay, how do you know? We don't know that. We know that there is medical use for it. I'm sitting down at the pharmacy, don't want to say drugstore because then somebody might boycott it. So I'm sitting at the pharmacy the other day, and I listened to person after person after person go up and try to get their medications for their illnesses, many pain-related, and the cost is going up and up and up, and they're older people, and they can't afford it, and they have no alternatives. We don't know what the alternatives could be for this industry because people haven't done the research on it. How are we going to find out if we don't do the research? We also talked about the pollution. Now, it's one of the things that I was really interested in when I sat up there was pollution of our water table. And they talked about Furadan. Furadan has been used by illegal growers for many, many years up here. And it was one of the things that pushed me really hard towards regulation to try to get rid of that polluting our waterways and our groundwater. So I can go on and on and on about this subject. I know it very well. I think that we're wasting a lot of time. I actually want to applaud Supervisor Tofinelli for last week requesting that we come here and talk about solutions. And I appreciate that because we need to move forward. This is a waste of time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Larry Bridges, 35-year resident and business owner in Calaveras County. I'm going to make this short. A couple of you on the board, you know me, I know you. I believe that your hearts are sincere. When we hear statements that there's no medical use, I think everyone on that board knows better. You may or may not approve of it, but I believe that everybody on that board knows better. What I don't like is dishonesty and misrepresentation. And unfortunately, there's been just unbelievable amounts of rhetoric thrown out that has no basis in fact whatsoever. Without trying to be insulting, we had an individual earlier trying to appear that she's representing the Republicans in this county, and I'm going to say that's BS. Okay, I'm probably as radical of a right-wing Republican as you can ever find. I am not a member of that organization, nor have I been approached, nor has my opinion been asked for. what I'm going to ask from you, each and every one of you, is to consider seriously what we're doing here. We have a lot of work that has gone into this project, into where we are today. I'm not going to use, since somebody had found the legal, illegal terminology offensive, I'm going to call it the compliant and the criminal. Okay, we have the compliant groups who have come forward, jumped through enormous hoops, paid great deals of money, put up the appropriate fencing, cleared through the water board and every other department, registered with the Internal Revenue Service, with the state franchise tax board, and so forth, to be in compliance. Common sense is going to say that those people are going to comply with the law because they don't want to lose everything. And most all of them that I've encountered are good people. Are there bad people out there, or I'm going to call the criminal element? Absolutely there is, and they've been here and they will continue to be here. Our sheriff is doing a good job right now starting to clean up those guys. They're doing eradications. I'm just asking you guys to get serious here. Look at what we're doing. This isn't just a political issue, and there are people that are going to be hurt, and it's not necessary. It can be controlled. It can be regulated. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a point of order on that last gentleman. I think you asked.
Wait a minute, sir. I'm going to have you go to the microphone. Thank you. And I'll hear your point of order.
I have a point of order, Mr. Chairman. Didn't you ask us not to denigrate the members of our audience and also the board of directors or anybody else that's in this? Calling that lady that was up here representing the Republican Party, I think this man was over the top. I don't understand why you didn't stop him.
Well, it's because it says, I'll answer that. I don't believe there's any derogatory term. It was a statement of fact by his own admission, and that was his own view. As chairman, I don't think it reached those parameters, but it was an issue that I recognize your point of order. Thank you. Any further speakers? Sir?
Hi, I'm Kevin Wright, the Agricultural Commissioner. I didn't have a chance to speak this morning. I kind of found out about it by looking on my monitor this morning, just exactly what was going to be.
Okay, sir, before we continue, are you speaking as our Ag Commissioner or as a public speaker?
I'm speaking as a commissioner.
Then they're speaking as staff. I'm going to interrupt the public comment and let staff have their opportunity. Go ahead, sir.
So, just to add a little color to the conversation so far, I want to talk a little bit about Furadan, the chemical that the sheriff had found this morning. And I just want to say that there was a widespread use of Furadan on alfalfa for control of weevils back before 2009 in the United States. But the registration for any use of Furadan has been taken away from everyone in the whole USA. So there is no label it's not registered for any product, and there is no residue that can be found on any product, including food that comes in from any other country in the United States. However, it's still legal for use in some third world countries. So the Furadan that was found in our county this time was not only from an illegal grow, but it was smuggled in from an outside source. There's no permit that can be issued by my county or by any other county to buy Furadan in the United States or in California. So that was banned in 2009. But that's really not why I wanted to speak today. What I wanted just to say is, we're here to make a decision. And what we want to do is to do something that is proper for the long-term future of our county and for the citizens of our county. So what is going to be best is what we have to ponder here. What is best for the future of our county? A ban or a regulation? You know what, to tell you the truth? I'm not sure. But I do know so far, up to this point, Calaveras County has been going it pretty much on their own. You know, back in, was it February 16th, I don't know if it was 2015 or 2016 when we first did this. You know, I said that was going to be a long road and that we weren't going to get any help from the feds until 2018. Well, here we are. It's almost 2018. And I think that with the help from the feds and the money that we can get from our own project that we have going here, that we can make the future positive with a regulation for cannabis. What we have now, state is on the cusp of having 3 agencies help us. We haven't had that before. We have the Bureau of Marijuana Control within the Department of Consumer Affairs. They're going to enforce licensing for transport, storage, distribution, and the sale of marijuana within the state. The Department of Health will administer provisions relating to the manufacture and testing of marijuana products. And finally, the California Department of Agriculture is developing their regulations to establish cannabis cultivation, licensing, and the track and trace program that we were talking about that's going to be instrumental in actually following cannabis product through the channels of trade. So with those 3 things as an aid, I think that we're going to be in better shape if we can come to some compromise on this and look toward the long-term solution that's going to be a benefit to everybody in the county. The marijuana growers or the cannabis growers, whatever you want to call them, who are trying to do it legally, coming to getting their permits and things like that, they want the same things that the retired people in the county want. They want to be able to provide a lifestyle for themselves where they can go to the bank, put their money in the bank, take their money out of the bank, go to a restaurant, have good food, and live, go to good schools, and all that. And that's what we all want. So, I think we need to be thoughtful in what we're doing here. For instance, the Department of Food and Agriculture, which is the one that I'm most familiar with, sent me a letter, not to me personally, but to all agricultural commissioners and sealers recently. And what they said was, from their own point of view, in 2018, Cal Cannabis, which is the name of their licensing branch, has planned to have 6 small satellite offices throughout the state to initiate the statewide inspection and enforcement of cultivation licenses and to provide guidance to county agriculture commissioner staff assisting with state license inspections and enforcement activities. We are in the process of determining where these offices will be located, but we are looking to locate in areas with high concentrations of local cultivation permits and centralized to cover a broad geographical range. So from the state's point of view, looking at it from a state's point of view and not from our own county's point of view, they're serious about having a normalized cannabis program for the state. And I think with their help and our own experience, we actually have more experience than they do right now. We've come down a rocky road, but we're getting there. And so I think with everybody involved, we can have a program with a thoughtful regulation. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Wright? Sorry to make you walk away. I do have a question because this refers to something that happened when I was on the Calaveras County Water District Board. If you remember back in September of last year when the Water Board everybody came and did a presentation before the board. And Senior Counsel of the Water Board, Yvonne West, said at that time that the issue of marijuana being an agricultural product was not settled in California. Has that changed? I'm not meaning to put you on the spot. I just was trying to see, has there been anything changed in the direction?
No, it's in the act, in the act, the state law.
Did they do it through Prop 64, or
It says in the law itself that cannabis is an agricultural product for the purposes of those laws.
Okay, is there a way for you to kind of give me a link or something so I can see that?
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Folks, we have one more staff member, I think. Mr. Moss, did you wish to address as staff? Okay, I misinterpreted that. Is there any more public speakers? We're going to go back to public speaking section. And ladies and gentlemen, we'll be taking a 10-minute break at 3:30.
Thanks for having us here today. My name is Jennifer Smith. I own homes in Districts 1, 2, and 3. I have a farm in District 2. The question was raised earlier about the current number of approved farms. It's not our position to be the expert on these numbers, but we do stay on top of these numbers so that we can ascertain the impact upon our industry. It's our understanding 108 farms of the 396 have been inspected, have been approved for a 27% rate. We're not here today to discuss the morality of cannabis use. That's an individual's right. We're not here today to discuss the legality of cannabis use or cultivation. The state and its voters have made those decisions. We're here today to talk about land use. Let's get our general plan in order. Let's build regulations based upon that corrected general plan so not only the cannabis industry can be successful, but all industries, and we can attract industry to Calaveras County. Let's get our farms inspected. Let's know the full impact before we make sweeping judgments. Let's find a way for success of all industry in Calaveras, as well as quality of life for all residents. That's all we're asking. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other public speakers?
Hi, Dina Morris. I'm representing many people in District 4 that are afraid to come here. They don't want growers to see their faces because of the situation that they live in. Others had to work and cannot be here, and some are just unable. So I just would like to remind the board that marijuana is a drug. We can't change that. It's medical, it's used for medical, recreational, but the bottom line is it's a drug. And the other issue that goes with this is that, for instance, code enforcement has to be accompanied by law enforcement when they go out to do the inspections, okay? And then those two people get to leave that grow, whereas the people like myself are stuck there. We can't just up and leave, and I don't have an armed guard, and I can't afford one. We moved to the rural residential areas to get away from it all, to live a peaceful life. And that's not happening anymore. Things have changed severely since commercial marijuana cultivation has been allowed in our rural residential neighborhoods, and that includes neighborhoods that are greater than 10 acres. I believe most of the complaints are coming from parcels that are greater than 10 acres. The other thing about it is I want to remind you, it has to be screened. There's a screen around it, although you can still see it, but we don't screen grapes and we don't screen tomatoes and other agricultural products. Now, the term agricultural, as far as my understanding is, it may be considered an agricultural product, but not to the extent of local land use. I believe that unless that's changed recently, the definition does not extend to local land use. And the other thing to remember is people are willing to die to steal it, and people are willing to give up their freedom to protect it. I want to ask you, do you really want to compromise the safety, the health, and welfare of your citizens, your families, and their children for this industry to be in their rural residential zones? It's time to get us out of this giant experiment. I've been in it for 3 years, and it's time for us to get out of it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further public comment, speakers? Seeing none, we'll take a break for 10 minutes.
I remember when I was on the board and 2 or 3 of us were smoking cigars all the time.
I remember cleaning up after you too.
Ladies and gentlemen, before we get the mics on.
For the record.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. I want to commend everybody, staff, our gallery, our speakers, our board, for having an intelligent, respectful conversation. It shows well for this county. Thank you. This time, public comment is over. We'll bring it back to the board for discussion and comment. Any board member wish to start discussion? No board member wants to start discussion. Wow. Okay. Supervisor Tofinelli?
I'll jump in the middle of this. First off, what Supervisor Oliveira, the chair, just said, I want to applaud everybody.
Excuse me, sir. Could you speak into the microphone for us?
Am I not speaking into the microphone?
That's better.
How's that? I want to agree with Supervisor Oliveira. I think it was a very good meeting today. I applaud everybody that came up and spoke. It was adult conversations, and it was ideas and of what they would like to see this industry if it goes forward here in this county, or if it doesn't go forward in this county. Obviously, there are a lot of things to consider for this board as it goes forward, and even towards the Planning Commission when it gets to the Planning Commission. But I think today was a very good start. I'm going to review the tapes and go over it, and I would encourage anybody that spoke today to put down that didn't give us anything in writing, to put down their ideas that they spoke about in writing and present it to the board. You can do that at any public comment period, or you can go to the clerk's office and present it to Diane, so it will be distributed to the board that way also. At least it's in writing, and we know what your concerns are. And I encourage that on both sides, because again, like I said last Tuesday, this is local government, and at the local level, as the constituents to each district and to this board, you have a right to your voice, and you can say it. Unlike at a state or federal level where it's not open to the public comment period. So please, for your own rights, please do that. And so it will give us plenty of information for us to discuss or in our own mind go over and to consider as we go forward with this ordinance. I do have a couple questions for Mr. Maurer. Because last week, and I know you weren't here, you were on vacation, and thank you for coming back to attend this meeting. it was brought up about something that you had said at the Planning Commission, as far as the timing of this, the EIR and the ordinance coming to the Planning Commission and then to this board. If you could please speak on that issue, so we are clear on if, in fact, there are any delays, or if there are, what causes there are, or where exactly we're at.
Okay. Certainly, I'd be happy to do that. So the public comment period on the draft EIR ends next Wednesday. That's the 14th. Once that's done, the consultant and I will get all those comments and review them. It's going to depend on the extent of comments that we receive, how long it requires us to prepare the final EIR, which are the written responses to every comment, as well as any new information that's necessary based on those comments. So if the commenters raise an issue that we did not adequately address in the draft EIR, then we will need to look at that information. Right now, the comments are just beginning to trickle in. I suspect the next week or so we'll be getting, the bulk of the comments. Now, there was one issue that was raised, I think it was discussed a little bit last week. I wasn't here, so I'm not sure exactly what happened, but there have been requests by the public to extend the comment period. 45 days is the legislative minimum and the recommended length of time for an EIR, public comment period for an EIR, that requires state agency input. This one was circulated to the state, therefore 45 days is the minimum time period for the public comment period. The state recommends that the comment period be between 30 and 60 days under normal circumstances. This is not a lengthy EIR compared to many. And so I think that the 45 days is sufficient amount of time for people to review it and to provide their comments to us to respond to. I am not advocating for an extension of time. But it is within your purview if you wish to extend that time to give the public additional time to comment. And that's why I brought it to your attention in a memo to you last week before I left on vacation, that if you were interested in providing additional time, you could certainly do that. I don't think it's necessary, and I'm not recommending it. Once we have completed our comments on the EIR, and again, I cannot provide a specific time frame because I don't know how many comments we'll receive and how much work will be necessary to respond to those. Typically, it takes anywhere from a couple of weeks to a month or more to do that. But again, it depends on how many comments we receive. Once that's done, then we can schedule it before the Planning Commission for a recommendation to you on certification of the EIR and then adoption of an ordinance. And we would look at the range of alternatives going from the original proposed ordinance directed by the board a year and a half ago to the ban, and so anything in between there could be considered as within the range of what was analyzed under the EIR. So that's where we're at. I'm looking at, so if we end in the comment period next week, say we get to the Planning Commission, hopefully the middle or end of July, we can have an ordinance before you in August. That's sort of my rough estimate of the amount of time that we're looking at to get this in the quickest time frame at this point.
So you are anticipating, and obviously you don't know the amount of comments or the extent of the comments because there still is about a week, a little over a week left for those comments to appear.
That's correct.
You're trying to give some leeway of at least a couple of weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks to address the comments through yourself and through the consultants to have that thing completed and then before the Planning Commission.
That's right, as well as our outside legal counsel will be looking at that to ensure the legal viability of the document.
Okay, I think that answers my questions.
Okay, thank you. Supervisor Toffenali? Supervisor Garamendi?
Yeah, thank you very much.
You know, I think context and scale is always important as we deal with this, and I want to thank everybody, both sides, for all their comments today. I've got 6 pages of notes and a lot of good ideas, and I spent most of the lunch trying to figure out how to sort it into some thoughts. I think we have to, you know, but just in scale and context, you know, I was impressed, and I was actually quite surprised at the growers that came forward and suggested numbers for a cap on this. And by my back of the envelope, 250 farms, averaging 15,000 square feet apiece, is only 86 acres under cultivation. Granted, it's intense cultivation, but it's not going to blanket the entire county. I sort of wanted to, I don't know if this is the correct time or not, Mr. Chairman, but I think we sort of, since this study session was about alternatives, as the second half of this, I guess we ought to discuss, are we considering alternatives? The majority of this board has made a very clear statement that they want the ban in place. The staff has written a very clear ban. So I suppose the question I've got from my fellow board members is, before we go into a long discussion, is there any number of cannabis farms under any type of zoning whatsoever that would be considered? Are we open to opening this up? I would ask my fellow board members that question.
I believe that would probably require a poll of the board, council, if we want to consider that. I'm taking that as an affirmative with nodding of the head.
And I think with the poll, then we could start digging in deep, saying what are the pieces to that?
Does any board member want to make a comment before you conduct a poll? Supervisor Mills, your lights.
I think what we need to do is we need to look at this EIR when it's completed, take the testimony we've gotten today and from last week's marathon session. I don't know if many of you got home after 1 o'clock. I did. And be able to absorb what we have in front of us before we even start a discussion, because I think the crux of it is going to be, do we have all of the information in front of us before we start discussing where we want to go?
Okay. Supervisor Clapp, any comment? Supervisor Tofinelli, any comment on that?
Right now, I would like the time to go over the information that was given to us today by the ideas from both sides and the other information that we got, again, like Supervisor Mills said, from last Tuesday, and have time to digest all of that and come up with possibly my own ideas on where I foresee this going. But for right now, I'm not interested in going any further than that.
Okay. Any further comments, Supervisor Garamendi?
I mean, that's the, if I understand, so the question was, is there any number of farms and type of zoning that we'd consider? You didn't say, you said no, or you said we want to absorb this. I mean, I've been criticized before for timeliness. I think where timeliness is now, we need to start having this conversation before we fully execute a ban. I'm trying to find what opening is.
Could I have you turn on your mic?
If we all just right now go, okay, we just don't want it, then we stop the conversation. I mean, so if that's, you know, and I think that's unfair to everybody here, is to stop the conversation. So if 3 people say, we totally want the ban, and 2 says no, then the conversation's over. And I think that's unfair to what this is all about. This is supposed to be an open meeting on that. And so to do what you suggest would just be putting a stop to it. And I think it would stop the conversation. And I think this is some of the best conversation we've had since the whole thing's been going. And I just wouldn't want to stop the conversation.
So we'll run these in parallel. We have a ban moving forward now. We're going to consider something else as well.
Well, that's basically what today's conversation was about.
Okay,
So
I
just don't want to be pulled right now on that until actually the whole thing's done, until everyone he still has letters coming in, he still has that, and then he's going to report back to us, and I think that's the proper time to make the vote.
Council, you look puzzled.
quite frankly, I'm just trying to follow all of the comments, not necessarily puzzled. My main concern is that staff is given clear direction on what it is that this body wants. Every single department head has been working very hard to further what this board, the prior board, what board members want. And so I just want to make sure that if, right now, all of the staff is moving towards the ban that we've been directed to process. We've drafted it and we are working through that process. If this board is wanting to look at alternatives that were presented today and direct us to draft yet another variation of an ordinance, the sooner the better as far as my office is concerned and the impact on my office. I would like those discussions so that we can start working on that sooner rather than later, just because I know timeliness is an issue, not just because timeliness has been brought up by this board, but this board also knows that we only have until February 14th to have something permanent in place, however we get there. And as you have been able to see, things always take longer than anticipated for a variety of reasons. Mostly unforeseen reasons, but they do come up. And so any direction that staff can get clear, the sooner the better. That's my only comment.
Lights on?
Oh, I'm happy to go through the things that I heard if we're having a discussion about that now.
If we're not going to conduct a poll of the board, I guess
Well,
now
I
is
think-
the time to
well,
do that.
I guess, are we done with the poll?
We haven't taken a poll, I don't believe. We just had comments. Okay.
Sorry, excuse me. I don't think you have the number of supervisors willing to take a poll at this time. Possibly, if we have some time, again, which was stated, to digest all of the information that was given to us today, provided by both sides, and the information last week, perhaps we can have discussions at our next board meeting, some open discussions about it after we've had time to review it. But at this time, I think it's too quick to even make the decision on what direction we're going to go. Obviously, Peter has discussed and told us that the EIR has some wide varieties there, or wide ranges there, excuse me, on the ability of anything that could be changed in the ordinances going forward, but it, again, is going forward as a ban. I certainly understand County Council's opinion or her discussion on how fast or how slow it would go if there are any changes to the current ordinance itself, and she would like to get them as soon as possible if any changes are going to be done by this board. So, but I think I personally need, and I'm hearing from the other supervisors, that I'm not willing to have discussions at this particular time until I have time to review everything and see my notes from last week, and review the video of this thing on all of the ideas that were presented today, and both verbally and written to us. So that's where I'm at.
If we were to further discuss this at the next meeting, which is the 13th, I understand, is there time to even agendize that, staff?
My one suggestion might be if we're going to have that debate on the 13th, that's also the same date of the budget hearing that's scheduled for 1 o'clock. And if we put it there, I worry that that's going to create a problem for the morning. We already have a few items that are expected to go. With general public comments, I would have concern that we wouldn't get through it all. One suggestion I might have is I anticipate, based on just the number of departments that have requested to present for the budget hearings, that we should be done with our budget hearings after supervisor discussions by Wednesday afternoon. That leaves the potential for Thursday, if you want to then have a discussion at that point. That will also be after Mr. Maurer gets any final responses. He'll have an idea of the number of responses that he's gotten, and might be able to provide some additional insight on what he's gleaned from the initial review of those.
Then we would have to have a special meeting? Okay. I feel that this issue is important enough to have that special meeting after we get the information and some indication from the EIR and Mr. Maurer. And I respect your request for time to look into this. And having said that, I think I would take a poll of the board to see if we can have that special meeting, so we're all on the same page. Any objection to that? Don't know yet.
My only concern would be to be sure that we have all of the public comments to the EIR, if we could have those available to us in any way. I mean, the comment period ends on the 14th. If you have all of your public comments, Mr. Maurer, at that point, is there any way we could see them? You wouldn't be able to respond to them at that point, but at least
Right,
we'd be able to see what they are.
The comment period closes at 4 o'clock the day before.
Correct.
We certainly would have, I could make copies available for you, either electronically or in hard copy.
I didn't mean to cut you off. That's fine. Mr. Maurer, if we should schedule a special meeting for the 20th, would that give you enough time to receive public comment? No.
20th is the Tuesday after next Tuesday.
The 20th, we're talking about Thursday, the 15th. Or 16th.
And have a special meeting on the 20th?
My thought is, if we went with the 20th, I mean, if we've learned anything after these many hours of discussion, maybe we ought to separate it, because I think at the end of 2 days of budget may not be the best thinking going on.
Yeah, it's going to be a tough day.
I would agree with Supervisor Garamendi that the following Tuesday would be the better option. It will give our staff more time to generate the information, I think additional information we may need, and maybe we could have that a little bit in advance of that special meeting, give us a chance to digest it as well.
I'm in agreement with that.
Supervisor Clapp? Sounds good to me. Okay. I would agree the 20th would probably be a good date for the special meeting to discuss this issue. Any other further comment by the board?
I think we ought to, I'd like to just note for the record some of the stuff that I heard today as people go back and study what happened. But, you know, I heard people talking about banning cannabis cultivation from rural residential zones and minimum parcel size. That's a really big deal, and takes on a lot of the community issues in everybody's district that's going on. Certainly ensuring cannabis is sited away from sensitive zones, and I've gotten a lot of emails over the last couple of weeks, and I think maybe we ought to take a look at what we list as sensitive zones if we're going to continue forward. Issuing a cap on permits using business licenses is a very powerful tool. As I just pointed out earlier, 250 grows are 86 acres. That is not a huge impact, and gives us $7.5 million if we just went off the $2 square foot canopy tax to deal with the illegal grows and fund the sheriffs and code enforcement and other people who are going to put this stuff away. Allowing farmers to move from a non-conforming property to conforming property seems like a fair thing to do. We shouldn't penalize people for playing by the rules. I would like to also see, and this came from emails over the last couple of weeks, residency requirements. I think that you know, if you're a corporation, you need to have a licensed agent located in the city, not a law office, not a PO box. want bodies on the ground, so we have somebody to help hold accountable. Background checks was put out, DOJ. I think it sounded like people are open to much more thorough background checks, and including the ideas of licenses for workers, permits, tags, much like they do in Colorado. I think we need to take a look at our standards for measured noise, smell, and light. Those are things we can do, and responsible growers, I think, would be open to that. We'd have to take a look at licensing fees. What is that Nexus study coming back with? RIM fees were suggested, even including for private roads. These are all things I picked up today. Worker safety, we have to ensure that workers. I will note that Ferritin is sold by an American company, FMC, and distributed worldwide by a large pharmaceutical company called Bayer. Thank you, large pharma. We have a track and trace program. I mean, that was really interesting. We talk about track and trace. Go figure, we might have a high-tech industry located in Valley Springs. Wouldn't that be interesting if we became the hub of the high-tech tracking? Dispensaries. I agree with the speaker. I think most people up here would recognize that there are medical advantages to cannabis, and it's helped a lot of people, including people I know very well. I think that the idea of moving, some farmers would end up on rural residential lots that were 80, 120 acres. There's a public process through the Planning Commission for rezoning property, and it includes communicating with neighbors and community in a public hearing. So if you've got a good farm on a bad piece of property, there is a path forward through a public process. And I think those are all really good ideas that came out of this. And I hope that this board, when they go home and they contemplate and look at the tape, will see that there is a third way. And I think we've seen it today. I know Supervisor Tofinelli asked for it, and I think we saw it. So I'm pleased with this. Of course, I'm always impatient. I want to get things going, but I could wait till the 20th.
Thank you, Supervisor Gerben. Comments, Supervisor Mills?
Thank you. I think today has probably been the most civil discussion that we've had from the public in a long time. I appreciate that. I think it goes a long ways towards understanding, first of all, that the other side does have a position, and we have to respect the position of everybody as they speak. Otherwise, there can't be two-way communication. I'd like to thank the young lady from Alameda County for helping me to correct the agricultural issue, and that is that she did state that this is not settled in California. It is an ag-ish problem or situation, not ag. And thank you for that. There's a lot of pieces to this puzzle, but I think it's very important to understand that there has been no clear direction from the board other than that which was given to staff on January 31st or February 14th. And until they hear a change in that direction, or that we're going to be talking about additional items, that should be the continued direction that staff takes, and I hope that they will continue to do that. I really would like to have all of the information contained within the EIR before we settle in on what other decisions or other discussions we're going to have. If we add additional pieces right now, I think we're just compounding, confusing the progress that we've been making to this point. So I'm looking forward to whatever we might be able to discuss on the 20th of this month, and hopefully the public and staff will understand that we have heard over and over again many of the things that have been said here. Thank you for saying those things. Repeating them over and over again doesn't really make them any better or any worse. It just simply means it's an additional comment. The precious time, and I learned this at the CSAC training, the most precious time we have is the amount of time that each individual on this board can spend talking to the rest of the board and to each other and getting this communication going. This is where it happens. And understanding the importance and value of that, we've sat here through, 10 o'clock till now 4 o'clock, and we're only now, as a board, beginning to discuss any possibility of anything. That is very difficult for the process to move along at any kind of pace, because, as you say, the wheels of justice grind exceedingly slow and exceedingly fine. Well, when it comes to a process like this, it's going to do the same thing, as long as the public understands that we still have to have time to talk amongst ourselves and to settle things amongst ourselves. So it's valuable, and I appreciate your time and your willingness to come here from your work and your efforts that you've been doing on a daily basis to earn a living. And we've got what we need, but we'll still need the rest of it and to be able to put it together from here. So appreciation and kudos to the audience for your time and your willingness to make your statements today.
Thank you. I would agree with all my colleagues that we need an opportunity to digest all this information that's been presented in the past, especially today. I want to make sure that we have a clear understanding as best we can about the EIR, how it applies to our decision regarding this ordinance, be it banned or whatever. But my main concern right now is making sure that we give clear direction to staff. I feel that sometimes staff doesn't know which way to go, even though the Board of Supervisors tries their best to point them in the right direction. So, is there any misunderstanding of what we're going to be doing on the 20th? Let me know now by any staff member. Any question that we can address now, so that meeting can go like this meeting did?
I would hope that it goes like this meeting today did. Again, I want to congratulate everybody that spoke, and it was a very civil and productive meeting. Thank you.
Madam Clerk, do you have any questions?
What's our start time going to be on the 20th?
Madam Clerk, what would you suggest?
Not 6 a.m. Ha, ha, ha. I don't know if there will be a closed session discussion, but maybe we could do, if there is, closed session at 8 and begin the conversation at 9.
Okay, is there a problem any staff members see at 9 o'clock on the 20th? You notice I asked staff first before I asked the board. Board, is there a problem with a 9 o'clock start time on the 20th? It's going to be a special meeting.
So it would be a special meeting, and if there is closed session, I would suggest 8 a.m. as you have been doing, but have the public portion start at 9.
Okay. Supervisor Tofinelli, are you in agreement? Yes. Supervisor Garamendi? Sure. Supervisor Mills? Yes. Supervisor Clapp? Yes. And I also concur. That would be a good start time. Mr. Maurer?
I just want to be clear. So I will provide to each of the board members copies of the public comments that we received. It could be quite lengthy, but we'll make sure you get all copies of it. The purpose of the meeting, as I understand it, is your opportunity to discuss. You listen to staff, you listen to the public, but you need time to digest that information so that you can then have an informed discussion about the options and the directions you want to go. Is there anything else that you need from me or any other staff at this point?
None at this time that I'm aware of. I want to personally thank staff for attending today. It's been a long day. Your attendance is much appreciated. We all are busy, but thank you for taking the time. Supervisor Tofinelli.
Mr. Chair, if I can, while everybody's still here and staff is still here, I would like to speak a little bit about last Tuesday's meeting.
Okay.
Okay. I believe last Tuesday at the end of the session, Supervisor Mills read from a statement in which he focused on a perceived delay on a ban ordinance the staff was directed to prepare. And I understand his frustrations. Sometimes in government, I experienced the same type of thing when I first came on the board. Sometimes in government, it takes a long time to get things accomplished, but again, going slow because of the nature of where we are in today's world with lawsuits over everything, and the laws and statutes in the state of California and the federal level dictates that we must do so many things in order and progressive. So it does take time. But I would like to first bring up that amongst that, if that was just the issues, that it would be somewhat perceivable just as government, but there are extenuating circumstances. Since I left office a little over 4 years ago, there have been 5 CAOs, 2 of those interim. There have been 9 different board members, 7 of which had no prior government experience before taking their seat. Every appointed department head has changed at least one time within, and one of them was interim for over a year. So there's been a lot of changes going on in just the 4 short years since I left this board, which staff has had to deal with. Beginning in 2014, staff has been working on, as directed by prior boards, on regulations of this industry. On January 31st of this year, only 4 short months ago, they were directed to reverse that direction and prepare a ban ordinance to which was working out with, as they were working with outside consultants. They did not just develop this ban ordinance by themselves. They had outside consultants helping them deal with the issues. And they accomplished it. They did it. They brought it to this board within about a 45-day window. Now, you can say it's still along the same thing, but it's tantamount to my guys, me telling my people who work on steel, that we are now going to start working on wood, and we're going to construct this instead of steel, we're going to be constructing this building with wood, and we have 30 days to do it. It's going to be a very difficult thing for them to do. So it's not something that you can just change gears on, especially with what we are dealing with here with the lawsuits that could happen, and having to make sure that they need to make sure that it's correct when it comes to us or the Planning Commission. So I just want to bring those things up. I also want to bring up that there is a lot of staff that is still here when I left 4 years ago. Some of them were my next door neighbors, or were my next door neighbors. Some of them live in my subdivision. I know a lot of them. I know their children. I know their grandchildren. And some of them have even worked on my campaign. These are very hardworking, dedicated people that we have here in Calaveras County that work with us, and we are very special to have them. And I really want to know that I appreciate the work that they do. I want to also bring up the fact the ones that have been here for a length of time have endured periods of budget cuts. The last 4 years I was on here, it was 4 straight years of 10% budget cuts. They've had wage cuts in forms of takes, no raises, and they have stayed with the county and dedicated themselves to this county. I do not believe in any conspiracy theory is possible. I don't believe any of these people work that way. Just knowing them the way that I do, I don't know all of them. There's over 500 employees here in this county, but I do know a lot of them. I do not micromanage. I say hello to them. I say hi. I do not deal with them because that's not my job. That's the department head's job to do. If there's any problems that I have or been told about, I will deal with the CAO and have him, that's his job. So I understand Supervisor Mills and Supervisor's class statement and some frustration on what we are trying to get accomplished here as a majority of this board. And if it is true that Calaveras County has spoken the way that was indicated in the hallowed halls of RC and CSAC, I would say that it is not because of staff that is spoken. It's because of the leadership of this county. And if we want to change that, it's within us to change that. There's 5 people sitting at this board. And I think you will need more than yourself to make that change. You will need at least 2 other supervisors. And above all, we will need the help of the staff. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Tofinelli. Having said that, I believe we're going to be moving to our next issue here. Madam Clerk?
Supervisor announcements. In compliance with AB 1234, chaptered as Government Code Section 53232.3D, this is the time for board members to report on meetings attended on behalf of the county and to carry out their duties as a county supervisor.
Supervisor Clapp, would you like to start? Nothing? Supervisor Mills?
I'll report out in the next meeting that we have, the activities in the past 2 weeks, but I wanted to bring this up because this is important. Tuolumne County Resource Conservation District is providing funding to even those that do not live in utility districts, a rebate for 1 toilet to not to exceed $100, 1 shower head not to exceed $25, and this has to be done by December 31st of 2018. I can get this information to anyone that is looking for it. Also, rainwater catchment rebate, that is for up to, I think it's 165 gallons at 30 cents per gallon rebate, plus if it's larger than that, it's up to $1 per gallon that they'll rebate. And then the third one is promotional rebate program is in place for washing machines, toilet leak detection, sprinkler timers, low flow fixtures, et cetera. And this is only for those residents that live along Highway 4. If you need more information about it, I'll leave it with Diane, then she can give you a way to get in touch with them. So I'll leave this with you, so you have it for a reference. And maybe just hand out a copy to you, Supervisor Oliveira, because you're also in the district.
Yes.
And let you know that it's there as well. Thank you.
Supervisor Garamendi, anything to report?
Sure. I want to commend some of our great staff and the work that they're doing. I have the privilege of serving on the first 5 commission for this county, and we issued out grants this year. This comes from tobacco money to our county, and first 5 manages distribution as well as many programs. And these are really important programs. If you're not familiar with first 5, please get familiar with them. These are the people who work with our kids in daycare, talk about good touch, bad touch, talk about nutrition, talk about safety and firearms and around the home. These are really good, hardworking people. And if you ever get a chance and you want to be lifted up and see some of the great work that's happening in this county, join us at a meeting for the first 5 commission. You'll see some great things going on in our community, including gardens in schools, preschools. These are good people that we're working with, and come on by. I'll be spending the next couple days down in Fresno County, Sierra Nevada Conservancy, which board I serve on. We'll be talking about tree mortality and issues that impact our water systems, our watersheds, and I'll report back on that next week, but I look forward to it. Not Fresno, but I look forward to the board meeting. I like Fresno a lot.
Go Bulldogs. Supervisor Tofinelli?
I have nothing further to report. Thank you.
And I'll make my report at the next board meeting. It's going to be intense, I believe, during our budget period. But I once again want to commend every single one of you for acting reasonably and respectably. Thank you once again, folks. With that, staff report, and report out by staff. Welcome back, Mr. Mauer. Meeting adjourned.